On January 7, 1942, inside his headquarters at Rastenburg in East Prussia, Adolf Hitler delivered what he believed was a definitive assessment of the United States. Speaking with certainty to his senior advisors, he dismissed America as a nation with no future. It was, in his words, a society already in decline, fractured by racial tension, poisoned by inequality, and weakened by internal division. America, Hitler claimed, was neither unified nor disciplined enough to endure the strain of modern war. A country like that, he insisted, could not hold together under pressure. Hitler's reasoning rested on ideology as much as observation. He viewed the United States as a nation corrupted by what he believed were irreconcilable racial and social contradictions. From his perspective, this mixture guaranteed collapse. Germany, he argued, possessed cohesion, purpose, and martial tradition. America possessed only abundance and comfort. Comfort, Hitler believed, bred weakness. At nearly the same moment, thousands of miles away on the American West Coast, a very different calculation was being made. In a modest office overlooking the Richmond shipyards in California, Henry Kaiser, a 57-year-old industrialist, was sketching ideas on a scrap of hotel stationery. Kaiser had never built a ship. His career had been forged in dams, roads, and massive civil engineering projects completed faster than experts believed possible. Shipbuilding, however, was considered an entirely different discipline, slow, complex, and bound by tradition. Experienced shipbuilders insisted that a cargo vessel required at least 8 months to construct. Kaiser examined his sketch and calmly told his associates they would build one in 4 days. The gap between these two beliefs, Hitler's contempt and Kaiser's confidence, would help determine the outcome of the war. German intelligence had been underestimating the United States for years. Reports compiled in the late 1930s painted a consistent picture. America was a nation of merchants, not soldiers. Its standing army in 1939 ranked among the smallest in the world. Its factories produced automobiles and household appliances, not tanks and aircraft. Its people had enjoyed decades of peace and prosperity, and German analysts concluded lacked the will for sacrifice. When President Franklin Roosevelt announced that the United States would produce 50,000 aircraft per year, German leaders laughed. In 1939, American aircraft output had totaled fewer than 3,000 planes. Increasing production nearly 20-fold seemed impossible. Hermann Göring, commander of the Luftwaffe, dismissed the claim outright. He understood aircraft manufacturing, or believed he did. Precision alloys, skilled labor, and years of refinement were required. America, in his view, lacked all of it. Memories from the First World War reinforced this assessment. American troops had arrived late, suffered comparatively fewer casualties, and played a limited strategic role. To German officers, the green American soldiers of 1918 confirmed the belief that Americans lacked endurance. Albert Speer later recalled Hitler's repeated insistence that Americans had never endured real hardship. They had not paid in blood. They had not been tested. Worse, Hitler believed America lacked a unified national identity altogether. It was, he claimed, a loose collection of immigrants, incapable of shared purpose. This ideological certainty blinded German leadership to a critical truth. They measured America by what it was in peacetime, not what it could become under pressure. The transformation began even before America formally entered the war. In 1940, as Europe burned, Roosevelt issued a challenge to American industry that would fundamentally reshape the economy. Automobile factories would stop making cars. Appliance plants would abandon consumer goods. Every machine capable of cutting metal would be redirected toward war. In 1941, American factories produced more than 3 million automobiles. Over the next 4 years, fewer than 140 civilian cars would be built. Chrysler shifted to aircraft fuselages. General Motors produced tanks, trucks, guns, and engines. Packard manufactured Rolls-Royce aircraft engines for Britain. Companies that had never handled explosives learned to manufacture ammunition. What German planners failed to understand was the power of American standardization. Decades of mass production had created systems where components made thousands of miles apart fit together perfectly. That system was now applied to weapons. Skeptics argued aircraft were too complex for assembly line production. A heavy bomber contained more than 1 million parts. Kaiser ignored them. When he received a contract to build ships, he had no shipyard and no trained workforce. What he had was process. Kaiser treated shipbuilding as a manufacturing problem, not a craft. Tasks were broken down, simplified, mechanized, and scaled. Welding replaced riveting. Sections were prefabricated and assembled like modules. Workers were trained in days, not years. Farmers, factory workers, women who had never worked outside the home, all learned quickly. Kaiser built housing, healthcare, and childcare to support them. His Richmond yards eventually employed over 90,000 workers. The results stunned everyone. In 1941, a Liberty ship took 230 days to build. By late 1942, Kaiser's yards completed one in just over 4 days. This output shattered German naval strategy. Admiral Karl Donitz had gambled on sinking Allied shipping faster than it could be replaced. Early success along the American coast reinforced his confidence. But American shipyards accelerated relentlessly. In 1942, 8 million tons of shipping were launched. In 1943, 19 million. Every ship sunk was replaced by 2 more. As convoys formed and anti-submarine tactics improved, U-boat losses mounted. By May 1943, Donitz withdrew from the Atlantic. The campaign Germany needed to win was lost. The same pattern repeated in the air. Ford's Willow Run plant became the embodiment of American industrial power. Critics mocked the idea of building bombers on moving assembly lines. Early delays drew congressional scrutiny. Ford responded by overwhelming the problem with engineering and organization. Hundreds of engineers converted aircraft designs into precise manufacturing instructions. A nationwide supplier network fed the assembly line. Engines came from Flint, propellers from Connecticut, landing gear from Ohio. By 1944, Willow Run produced 1 B-24 bomber every 63 minutes. Aircraft accumulated faster than crews could be trained. By war's end, the United States had built nearly 300,000 aircraft. American forces initially struggled on the battlefield. At Kasserine Pass in Tunisia, inexperienced troops were defeated by seasoned German units. German commanders took this as confirmation of American weakness. They missed what followed. American forces reorganized immediately. Commanders were replaced. Training was revised, doctrine updated. Lessons were documented and distributed across the entire army. Within months, the same forces that had faltered drove Axis troops from North Africa. German military culture, rigid and hierarchical, struggled to adapt. Failure was punished. Honest reporting was dangerous. Hitler's interference worsened everything. By 1944, the consequences of Germany's misjudgment were undeniable. American industry produced nearly two-thirds of all Allied military equipment. American armies advanced from the west, while Soviet forces closed from the east. German industry collapsed under relentless bombing. Yet Hitler never accepted responsibility. Until his final days, he blamed betrayal and fate. He never admitted that his assumptions about America had been wrong. The German failure was not a lack of intelligence, but a failure of imagination. They saw what they expected to see and ignored what was possible. The factories that built ships in days and bombers in hours no longer exist. The workers returned to ordinary lives, but what they achieved changed history. Germany underestimated not just American industry, but human adaptability, the ability to learn, to mobilize, and to endure. That misjudgment helped decide the war.